You know, I read once that whenever the feeder calf market catches a cold, that the feeder bull market catches the flu. I tell you what, with all the uncertainty in the last week in the cattle markets, that setup is exactly what's going on. So let's go hunting, and then after that, we'll go home and we'll crunch some numbers. So wish me luck, and I'll see you here in just a few. Back home and back inside. So here's what we got. Let's look at this. My little pen I use is not working. I think the battery's out. So this right here is a sale from this week. Sale was on Thursday, October 23rd of 2025. Today is October 25th of 2025. So this was just a couple days ago. The sale is from Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas. And you can see here how many head they sold and so on. But what we want to look at today is this comparison between steers and bulls. And as I was saying, you know, whenever the cattle market gets a little volatility in it, those bulls, they get really discounted. Whenever the market's hot, the supplies are really tight, which are still tight, but the market isn't quite as hot as you can see here. You know, $7 to $10 lower, up to $30 lower. Whenever you start seeing that, that's where sometimes there's some opportunity in these classes. So here's what we're going to compare. We're going to look at these steers. We're going to grab these steers medium and large number ones right here. And we are going to look at these 477 pounders that sold an average price of $520.75 per hundredweight. We're going to compare those all the way down here where they have the bulls listed. We're going to compare that to these bulls. These bulls are medium and large number ones, just like the steers were. And we're going to look at these 478 pounders. So there's only 1 pound of difference between our steers and our bulls. So basically apples to apples. And the price on those bulls was $374 per hundredweight. So medium and large ones, same basic quality. Through the eyes of the market reporter, same weight, same everything. So $374 per 100 pound for those bulls versus $520.75. Now, I think you guys probably already know where this is going, but there are some hidden factors we have to account for. So let's just punch in our numbers here. So 477 pound steer at $520.75 per hundredweight equals $2,483.97 per head. So we do the same thing on that 478 pound bull. He brought, what did he bring? 374. Punch that in here, 374, and that was 0.00 per hundredweight, which equals $1,787.72 per head. So at first glance here, we look at that, and you take 2483 right here, 2483.97, 1787.72. You subtract the two, and that would leave you with $696.25 between these two classes of animals. So say you're the guy, you left in the morning, you left with one animal on your trailer. You sold it. It was a 477 pound steer. And then you're sitting there and you're watching, and a 478 pound bull, the same quality, walks through right behind your steer. Should you buy that animal? That's basically what we're trying to decide here. So we're looking at the difference there of $696.25. So if that guy said, yes, I want to buy that animal, he sold an animal and he comes back with an animal. One left the farm, one's coming back, and he has a potential of $696.25. However, this is where we got to account for a loss in productivity off of that bull. Now, different people use different things. There's a standard rule of thought. You use a set rate, like you deduct it by 20 cents a pound or 30 cents or whatever, somewhere in between. I really think a percentage is probably a better way to go about it than looking at an actual number. And that being that as the market fluctuates up, down, as the price per head or price per pound anyways of that animal moves, that percentage better captures that. If you use a set number, your percentage is going to change. So I think percentage is the way to go. You look at AI and, they say anywhere from 2 to 10%. I've heard 2 to 12%. The heavier the weight, the more of a discount, because it's harder on that animal to be turned from a bull into a steer. So for our purposes on these four weights, these 477 and 478 pound animals, let's use an 8%. An 8% reduction on those animals. So with that reduction on there, to account for that, we're going to put that against our purchase price of that bull. So that 8% penalty, we'll just write the word penalty on here so we remember. That 8% penalty on here to the purchase price, that turns that $3.74 per pound. It was, so we converted that to a per pound price. It converts it to $4.04 per pound, which makes the actual purchase price for that bull. The actual purchase price for that bull is now adding, so we take 404 times 478 pounds. The purchase price for that bull is now $1,931.12. Okay, so that is a little more, right, than $1,787.72, as you see above. And then again, just so we're all clear, that's to account for that loss, because we have to penalize that bull somewhere. There's different ways we can incorporate that in there, but I chose to put it here. So the actual, even though we're writing a check for $1,787.72, in our mind, we have to think that bull, counting the hidden cost in there, is actually costing me $1,931.12, as seen right here. So is this a profitable trade? Well, let's just math it out here real quick. So we sold that steer for $2,483.97, and we bought a bull with the price of $1,931.12, capturing that hidden cost in there. That leaves us with a leftover of $552.85. Whenever you're doing this, pound for pound, basically here we have one pound, difference in there. It's really hard to capture any cost of gain on that, so that's why I went about it this way. So you still have an animal, same weight, same class, same quality, and you have an extra $552.85 in your pocket. That is per head. And that is important, because if you sold 10 of them, that's $5,520. That is a lot of money for lack of castration. Now, as I said, this whenever these markets are tight, sometimes you really don't see a hill of beans difference between what a steer sells for and the same weight and quality bull. They can be very same. I've seen it even before where those bulls sometimes even bring just a little bit more. But whenever that market gets a little bit of pressure on it, those bulls and those lesser quality cattle will always take a always take a hit on that. So by buying those bulls in this market, one, you got less money exposure because you got less in it per head. You can add value on those animals right off the bat. You're adding value. Take them home, castrate them, let them heal up. You've automatically added value on that animal. It's like I say, you can't predict the future on this because, the guy that sold those bulls, I guarantee you, he wishes they were steers. And whenever, a couple weeks ago, even, there really wasn't much incentive. But whenever it come time for him to sell it, he got caught, he got hurt. So it's always a good idea to castrate them, let them heal up because you don't know. The market that you're making that management decision to castrate in is a totally different market than what you are going to sell them into later. So that's one thing there. And I'll castrate them all day long for $552.85. So all these things here that we talk about, there's always more than one way to look at things, and this is just my thoughts, my ideas. I don't claim to have all the answers because I don't. And I'm sure there's probably, what ifs and buts on all of these calculations and numbers here. And, you can apply that cost different ways to account for it or have different ideas on what it actually cost. I welcome all the opportunity for interaction, comments. If you have a different thought, put it down there. All I ask is that if you disagree or you have a different idea, that we are all respectful to each other. We're all in this thing. We're all learning every day. At least you should be. There's nobody out there that has all the knowledge in the world. So I know I certainly don't. So with that, I'll just close this one up today. So thanks for coming along. And if you have any questions, comments, whatever, put them down there. And until next time, we'll see you then. Well, for those interested, I saw a handful of does, nothing in close. That's okay though, because I really wasn't looking to take anything tonight. I saw one buck, smaller, about a 115, 120 inch, but he was pushing a doe around, grunting, kind of bumping her out here in the bean field. So that's really the first rut activity that we've seen here. I'm in southwestern Missouri, so it's almost time.